Everybody. Tonight I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about a topic that I have recently done a lot of research on, and it was something that I hadn't in the past really known a lot about, and that is hormones and how the foods we eat affect our hormones. Hormones are some of the most important chemicals that are in our body because they regulate the majority of our body processes, and when those things get messed up, as you can imagine, problems are going to occur. And hormones actually have a great effect on how much fat we store and where we store the fat. Like, for instance, a lot of belly fat is a result of insulin response. Insulin is a hormone that regulates blood sugar, and if those insulin levels get too high or your blood sugar spikes too high and then the insulin has to come and bring that blood sugar down, it's going to create fat storage in your abdominal area. So it's really important to understand how hormones are affected by the foods we eat. Now, it is true that food is not the only regulator of our hormones, okay? So you have to understand there's other things you have to do to regulate their hormones, and just because you might have weight to lose doesn't mean that there's a hormone imbalance. So you never want to assume there's a hormone imbalance, and you never want to just use food to regulate the hormones, okay? Ways you can check your hormones is a simple blood test done by your doctor. They can also do some pH testing, but mostly with a blood test you can determine if there's hormone deficiencies. But there are certain foods that will create hormonal imbalances, and our bodies are just not really adept at processing them. For the most part, processed junk food and artificial ingredients are going to create hormonal imbalances. The reason being is that these products have a lot of chemicals. And chemicals, when they enter our body, especially if they're foreign chemicals that our bodies aren't designed to digest, they're going to create interruptions in our hormonal cycles, okay? Hormones work on feedback systems, so when one hormone is released, it communicates with another hormone, and it determines, from that, it's determined how much of the hormones are released, where the hormones go, what they do, etc. And a lot of chemicals interrupt those hormone pathways, those negative feedback loops. And so if those are affected, some very drastic health issues can occur, one of them being weight gain. So it's really important that you rid your diet of processed junk food and artificial ingredients. I mean, really, this is the kind of stuff you see in fast food, packaged goods, a lot of supposed diet products actually have a lot of artificial chemicals in them. So it's really important that these things are not present in your diet, or if they are present, they're present for no more than 10% of the time. And that's the reason. We don't want to create these hormone imbalances. Also, sugar and flour products can also create hormonal imbalances, mostly because sugar and flour have an effect on your glucose and insulin levels. So those products tend to raise your blood sugar, and once the blood sugar is raised, then the insulin has to come in to bring the blood sugar down. And the way it does that is by putting that sugar into storage mode. But as you know, the body's really good at storing fat, and that's really the body's primary storage mechanism. It can store small amounts of sugar and carbohydrate in your muscle, but for the most part it's stored in fat. So you have to understand that these products are going to cause a higher insulin spike, and therefore the likelihood of you storing more fat is greater. You're more likely to store the fat. There are foods, though, that are good for your hormones, and so I want to go over some of those right now because there are a lot of foods that not only are tasty and good, but they're also good for you. And a lot of you might already have this present in your diet, and if you do, that's really, really good. And I would continue eating that way. Dark green vegetables, your cabbages, cilantro, kale, spinach. Those dark green vegetables are great for your hormone balance because they give you a great source of vitamins and fiber. Okay, so it's going to regulate digestion, it's going to regulate other body processes. Colorful vegetables such as bell peppers, tomatoes, onions, carrots, those vegetables also are high in vitamins that you need that also regulate body processes and regulate hormones. So those vegetables are also very important to get through your diet as well. Nuts and seeds are also great for your hormones, mostly because of their fat content, okay? When it comes to hormones, a lot of the precursors for hormones are fat. So you need to have fats in your diet. I'm not saying go out and eat donuts and cookies and lard and butter, but you do need healthy fats in your diet to create these hormones. So nuts and seeds are a great source of fat. They also are a good protein source as well. Lean meats and freshly caught fish are really important. With meat, it's really important that you focus on organically farmed meat, grass-fed beef, and free-range poultry products. Those tend to be made with less chemicals and without hormones, and so they are obviously better for your hormones, because if you're eating beef, let's say beef or chicken that's treated with hormones, those hormones are going to get processed in your body and they're going to create interruptions in your system. So it's important to get those free-range, organic, and grass-fed where you can. Grass-fed is hard to find, especially in California, so you might be able to find it, but really do the best you can, because it will make a difference in your weight loss, okay? And also in just how you feel in your overall health. Also, avocado, coconut oil, olive oil, and other sources of unsaturated fat, okay? Those are the greats, especially monounsaturated fat is really what you're looking for. You really want to avoid eating out. The reason being is that when you're eating out, you don't really know where the food's coming from. You don't know how they're preparing it. And they could be using foods that have a lot of artificial ingredients, or foods that have been genetically modified. They could be using foods that have chemicals in them. You don't know what they're using in the food. And so you don't know what you're getting. And not only is the serving size too high, but you could also have these ingredients in there that are going to cause hormone issues. Another important thing you really need to stay away from too in your diets is alcohol. I know it's really hard because alcohol is a part of our culture and a part of socializing and social behavior, but alcohol aromatizes in your body and has an estrogenic effect, so it raises those estrogen levels, which will cause fat storage and is also going to force other hormones to increase to compensate for that extra estrogen, and that's where the fat storage comes in. Also, alcohol does cause your insulin levels to rise, and that insulin spike is going to cause anything you eat to be stored in the body, and again, our main storage method is fat. So really, alcohol is one of those things that it's really important to stay away from, because it really does very little for you, and it causes a lot more problems, and it really prevents you from losing weight, and it might actually cause you to gain weight. There are also a number of non-food related ways to keep your hormones in balance. One big one is to exercise regularly. Exercise creates a lot of positive hormonal cascades, especially vigorous weight training. Vigorous weight training is amazing for your hormones, so that's one thing that you all should be engaging in and incorporating in your exercise routine, especially for women who are postmenopausal or going through menopause. It's a great hormone regulator. Avoid overtraining. So you do have to make sure that when you're exercising, especially at a vigorous level, you're giving yourself adequate time to recover. Otherwise, your cortisol hormones are going to be too high, and that cortisol is going to cause the food you eat to be stored as fat, especially if you're not eating well. You need to drink plenty of water. There's no substitute for water. So don't say, oh, I'm drinking green tea, it's just as good. No, there's no substitute for water. So make sure you're getting the adequate amount of water that you need per day, and that you're not allowing dehydration to set in. And then also to get plenty of sleep. Sleep is so important. The most people do not get enough sleep, and without adequate sleep, your hormones would never be perfectly regulated, okay? So it's very important that those sleep patterns are good and that you're getting enough sleep. Okay, that's all for tonight. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any more questions, feel free to message my Facebook page. That's Fitness with Philip Bondi. You can also check out my website, befitfresno.com. And yeah, just really remember that hormones are so powerful within your body that if they are thrown off, it's going to cause a lot of issues, and it might be contributing to weight gain, or it might be preventing you from losing weight. So if you're struggling, take a look at what you're eating and see if there's any adjustments you can make to hopefully improve some of those hormone imbalances. Thank you very much, and until the next video, I will talk to you guys soon.